Do you see me? Maybe you do if I'm sitting and we're talking to each other. But if I move, the person you met might disappear. My walk is a little off. I stand forward on my toes and shift my weight for balance. And in that moment, when you see my cerebral palsy, you might stop seeing me. Cerebral palsy is something I was born with, a ramification of twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome and a premature pregnancy. This is a fact I live with, but throughout my life, I've tried to see my disability not as a limitation, but as an asset. It is the piece of me that pushes me forward and makes me strive to be more than what people might expect. When I was born, my brain bled in the region responsible for my legs. Nowadays, when people first meet me, I have no doubt this is the first thing that they notice. Yet, even as a young kid, I became obsessed with proving people wrong. This desire forged my work ethic. It became my North Star. In my family, we have a saying, if you get knocked down, you get up again. Ain't nothing gonna hold you down. When a task got difficult, this saying would come to mind. But just like any other kid, I thought about how others would see me if I quit. The all too familiar phrase, oh, he has cerebral palsy. He tried his best. That excuse was never an option. I loathed being the object of anyone's self-pity to the point where it didn't matter if I had to work twice as hard just to remain fairly competitive at the task at hand, even if it was just handball at that age. But speaking about elementary school, it was on the blacktop courts of West Park Elementary where I felt accepted. My first grade classmates didn't care if I moved a little differently. Honestly, most probably didn't notice. Through our daily lunchtime games, I made best friends and, not to brag, developed a pretty killer three-point shot, sparking a love for basketball that will stick with me forever. In fact, if any of y'all want to talk to me about the NBA after the event, I'd be all ears. Right now I got Jokic as my vote for MVP, and I might have put $20 on it. But I didn't stop at basketball though. I vividly remember my parents whisking my brother and I all over Irvine to soccer games and then karate practice later that same night. I started tennis, played quarterback in a flag football team, joined a Challenger T-ball league, and even signed up for my synagogue Sunday school. In the summers, I was on the West Park Marlin swim team. But there was just one teeny tiny issue. I couldn't kick my legs. So in order to get around this, I spent hours perfecting the art of swimming 50 meters in a single breath. When you get knocked down, you get up again. Ain't nothing gonna hold you down. That is who I still strive to be, a highly motivated individual who exceeds expectations despite the cards I've been dealt. And that is who I want to display, the ideal version of myself, the piece of me which I hold in the highest regard. Yet, I have not been that Zachary in a while. These past years have made sure of that. In what has been the most difficult experience of my life, my grandfather, Daniel Garrett, passed away from pancreatic cancer this time last year. He is the reason I love sports as much as I do, and it's because of him that I grew up rooting for UVA and the Washington Commanders, passions that will stick with me forever. When we would visit my grandpa in Virginia, he'd place my brothers and I in the back of his tractor and drive around as we squealed in delight. When he came to California, he would say that our house had a secret basement like his had back home. In reality, he was slowly lowering his level behind the kitchen counter until I lost sight of him. I never thought to look behind the counter, but right when my brothers and I would start asking questions, he'd pop back up with a big smile. I had a bar mitzvah, but both my dad's parents were Methodist ministers. And it's my grandpa's involvement in his church choir that first inspired me to start singing in 4th grade. Now, as a senior, I'm the bass section leader of Irvine Singers. It's safe to say he had quite the impact on me. In the wake of his death, I felt lost. My work ethic, the very thing I prided myself on, fell to the wayside, shifted towards indifference. My work ethic, the very thing I prided myself on, fell to the wayside, shifted towards indifference. Phrases like whatever or I don't care, phrases that I once deemed unacceptable, became mainstays in my daily vocab. All the while, I tried to cling to that better version of myself. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm a Virgo, but I've always liked the idea of a good checklist. The notion that I can methodically work to achieve my goals is one that has continually brought me comfort. So, there I was, looking up at my phone late at night, jotting down things I thought I needed to do to get better, whether it be waking up earlier, going to the gym, showering on a daily basis. But each day was the same as the last. My Notes app checklist left unopened and unfinished. In all honesty, I hated myself. I would come home from school and wish I was someone else. This was my senior year, supposedly the peak of adolescence, and I wasn't happy. With all the other negatives swirling around, I also blamed a lot of my sadness on my CP. For the first time in my life, I made it an excuse. In wrestling practice, when we got to a move that was too difficult, I sat off to the side wishing I could use my legs to the fullest ability. I wished I could play football or basketball like my other friends, realities that had been made impossible because of something I just couldn't control. I love my twin brother, and I know 100% that I have his back and he is mine in any situation. But it's really difficult to be at your lowest and see this supposedly perfect mirror image of yourself. He's a track star and naturally great at everything he touches, but he's never sought to overshadow me. I felt like I was holding him back, and I resented myself for it. I felt like I was holding him back, and I resented him for it. But I felt like I was holding him back, and I resented myself for it. But I continued on, and as the days got better, I continued to work and work and work until I got to the point where I felt like I needed to keep going until I couldn't stop anymore. It felt like life was a bad dream. All the while, I clung to my grandpa, I clung to the memories of my brother. But it felt like I just couldn't compete. It was really hard. But I kept fighting as I always had. In the wake of his death, I felt lost, but I continued on. They say that time heals all wounds, and even though I know that my life is never going to be the same without my grandfather, I can confidently say that it has gotten better these past few months. After speaking with a grief counselor, I began to open back up to my family. I experienced my senior night in wrestling. I went to Irvine's Formal for the first time, and I met all of these great people at Irvine Talks. I've even finally started going to the gym before school. Every day, I wake up with a purpose, but this time, I don't need a checklist to let me know. That's not to say I don't have bad days, but as a whole, my mindset has never been better. When you get knocked down, you get up again. Ain't nothing gonna hold you down. I've come to terms with the fact that some people may never see my abilities, instead choosing to focus on my limitations. However, that's a reflection on them, and it's not something I internalize. I can walk away from those individuals, albeit with an awkward gait, and move forward to new opportunities. I've learned that with loss comes an open space to look in new directions and find new passions. These past years have been trying, but through them, I've developed a resiliency I didn't know I had within me. A strong mindset and true understanding that life isn't always fair, but we can come back from disappointment. I used to wish I didn't have cerebral palsy, yet my disability has given me the chance to make an impact. Because of their experiences with me, my friends have grown up into adults who accept the differences of others. When I wrestled and I won or I fought hard on the mat, I forced people to rethink their initial estimation of my abilities. Now, a few weeks ago, a father with an 11-year-old son who wrestles with CP reached out to me. He asked if I had any advice. Obviously, I talked about the John Smith low single I spent 4 years perfecting, or how we have to maximize our upper body strength in order to compete. But the part that stuck out to me most was the mental side. This young kid was dealing with the same struggles I was, the same insecurity, the same crippling doubt, literally. But it was healing to know I could help him on his journey. I'm not trying to be an ambassador for people with disabilities, but I recognize I can inspire those around me, and that makes me proud. Some people may see my abilities, but others won't. A few years ago, my friends created a nickname for me, Zeggy. From this nickname, there have been countless spin-offs, Zegnation, Zegnacio, Dr. Zeggy, but my most favorite is the one that was bestowed on me after I climbed the hill at Senior Sunrise on all fours in order to make it up, the Master of the Terrain. A nickname means acceptance, and I smile when I hear them as I walk to class. Even when I'm moving, these people see me. They appreciate what I have to offer to our community. We learn a lot in school, but some of the most important lessons, the ones which define us, take place outside of the classroom. In my case, what was seen as a weakness became my greatest strength. When you get knocked down, you get up again. Ain't nothing gonna hold you down.